What's up, everybody, and welcome to Truth with Tara. Today on the podcast, I have rapper, singer, and songwriter, the artist DAX. DAX, welcome to the show. Thanks so much for being on today.
Thank you for having me here. It's my pleasure.
Yeah. So, DAX, you have actually a really interesting backstory. And for those of you who are watching or listening who don't know DAX, I discovered DAX during kind of like this 2020 era where everything was crazy and everything was in upheaval. And I heard his song, I Can't Breathe, which there's an interesting backstory to. So I learned when talking to DAX. But DAX, you had an interesting upbringing and you really weren't on the trajectory to be an artist, were you?
Right. Yeah. For me, this is not what I expected to be doing at all. My whole life wanted to be a basketball player. It sort of started when I was 11 years old. I found the law of attraction. Anything you think about consistently manifests, positive or negative. So I remember being on YouTube, finding this video called The Key, and it said, oh, you have this superpower. Me being 11 years old and impressionable, I was like, oh, wow, let me try this out. So it said, think of anything and watch it show up everywhere in your life. So for me at that time, I thought of the BMW 3 Series because it was my favorite car. So now I'm this 11-year-old who had really never seen this car around, and I started noticing it everywhere. Wow. On my walk to school, because I used to walk to school every day in Ottawa. It was 8, and I had never seen them on this 30-minute walk to school. And then I just started seeing the car everywhere. And so at 11 years old, I really thought I'd found this amazing superpower, and anything I thought about, I could manifest. But I also had to remember it was positive or negative. So at that time, about to go into high school, 7th grade, and I remember walking into high school and looking around and being like, dang, I'm nobody. I don't know. I remember just every single day, head up, trying to walk around, see, and I was like, okay, wow, there's just so many kids here and I'm just one of the kids. So eventually I ended up committing my life to basketball. On a Sunday, I asked my mom to get me this video game, NBA Live 2005 with Carmelo Anthony on the cover. And I just decided I'm going to be a basketball player. There was no rhyme or reason. Wow. No one in my family played basketball or anything like that. I was just like, this is what I want to be. I went to the park that was down the street, Maple Ridge, played one-on-one against this kid. And I just remember being naturally good and beating him a lot of times. He's sort of been playing basketball for a while. So then I committed just to basketball. So I followed guys like Kobe Bryant. I basically mimicked their work ethic. Started waking up at 5 a.m., walking to school, cold, rain, sleet, all of it, working out. Every single drill you could think of, the 2-ball dribbling, this, that, I just did it all. Trying to get out of Canada. And then eventually I did. I finally made it out. Went to prep school at Sunrise Christian Academy. Then there for 1 year. Then I went to a junior college for 1 year, Casper College in Casper, Wyoming. Then I played Division I basketball at the University of Montana. That didn't work out. There was a coaching change. So I transferred, went D2 to Newman University, where I ended up finishing my college basketball career. But my junior year, I started writing poetry.
Your junior year in basketball, you started writing poetry, and that was in college.
Yep, junior year of college.
Wow. So how old were you then?
By then, I was 22.
So your first poem was at 22.
Yep, first poem was 22. I was on the way to play at the University of Arkansas, Fort Smith. I looked down. I was listening to this song by They, and it inspired me to first write a rap. I wrote this rap, and what I was reading didn't line up with my values or my life and my upbringing. So I was like, okay, I can't do this, because I was as someone who had listened to rap my whole life, a lot of the things I heard didn't necessarily resonate with me or with what I was going through, but it was just background music while I was working out and playing basketball.
Right, because it's a good beat. It's a real good beat.
Right. So here I am, 22, trying to write this rap, and it's just I'm saying all this, crazy stuff that's not my life. So then I'm like, okay.
And you're saying it why? Can I stop you right there and ask, when you wrote that poem, why were you saying crazy stuff that didn't align with you? Is it because that's what you thought the content of rap had to be, because that's all you heard in it?
Yeah, I think it was just me naturally I'd freestyled for fun growing up, and you just say stuff that you sort of hear and do.
Right.
So it was just when I wrote the rap on that bus, it was just okay, well, this is what I think,
Yeah.
And this rhymes, you know what I mean? But then I looked down and I was like, no, I can't. This doesn't make sense. And it was so weird. I didn't know why I was doing this. I just been inspired and tried it. So then I'm like, let me try to write a spoken word poem. And at that time, I thought I had coined the phrase, and I quickly Googled it and realized I wasn't the first one to come up with spoken word poetry. So then I write this poem on the bus in 10, 15 minutes, and I looked down at it and I said, wow, if this is where I'm starting, I think I could be one of the greatest at this. And I got off the bus, I showed it to my teammate, and he was like, wow, you just wrote that right now? And I was like, yeah, I just wrote that on the bus. And that was it.
So that's where it began. Yeah. I think it's really interesting that you said after your very first poem, wow, I could be one of the greatest at this, ever. And that's interesting because I think a lot of people who start something new, there's this huge sense of insecurity and really self-deprecation about that whole initial beginning experience that really stops people right there dead in their tracks.
Right.
And they already basically like verbally and subconsciously defeat themselves before they even give themselves a chance to hone that craft or get even better.
Right.
And so I think it's really interesting. And some people may say arrogant
Right.
that you said, wow, I may be the best at this after the first one, but,
Well, because
and fair enough.
for me, it was like, so I had spent up until that time 10 years becoming this great basketball player. I could have went pro, all this stuff like that. I led the conference in scoring. But with no one ever playing a sport in my family or playing basketball, I had to do the drills. I remember when I first started, I wasn't a good shooter. So the first poem wasn't, this incredible poem. It was a good poem. But as someone who had built a skill, I knew that if this was where I was starting and I put the work in, I could become amazing at it. Like if this is my beginning template and I put the work in like I just did for 10 years, wow, I could be amazing.
That's so interesting. I love that. That's a great thought process. It's very honest. It's not self-deprecating, and it also allows the opportunity for you and for anyone who thinks that of themselves also to continue.
Right.
And like you said, if I keep going, imagine then how good I could be at that.
Right.
So fast forward then, what was the first song that you recorded and released?
The first song I recorded and released, so first my goal was I wanted to be quote unquote the Drake of spoken word poetry. So for a long period of time, I was just writing all these crazy intricate poems. Like Dear Alcohol, my song actually started as a poem. And it was this 7-paragraph crazy poem. Obviously the song is not that, but I was doing that for a while until I had this dream with Tupac in it. I don't believe in dreams, but I do know if you think about things consistently and you listen to your reality, you're going to then have these thoughts subconsciously and it's going to create dreams,
Yeah.
So people at that time told me that Tupac also wrote poetry. Then I went to this small theater in Wichita and watched the All Eyes on Me Tupac movie. And then after that, I had this dream where in the dream Tupac said, hey, what the poetry is dope, but if you really want to make an impact, you need to make songs because they have more replay value. So then I woke up and I was like, that makes sense. If I make a dope poem, people listen to it once, but I don't know if they're going to listen to it a bunch of times. This is why a lot of my initial songs had no courses. It was just me speaking from the beginning to the end, sort of like a long extended poem in song.
Yeah. I really think that songs are poems better packaged and branded.
Right.
Because like Tupac said in your dream, I mean that there's repeatability and it really creates this earworm effect in the listener where like they gotta listen to it again. It's very interesting that you had that dream actually.
Yeah, I've had two really important dreams in my life. There was that one with Tupac and I had one with Michael Jordan in basketball. He taught me how to score the basketball. And he said, I'll never forget this. He said, to score the basketball, all you have to do is this. When you're open, shoot. If you miss, shoot again. If they cut you off, change direction. Like an analogy for life as well.
Yes, it's so true. Right. So profound and simple.
Right. That's how I just ended up like leading, the league in scoring. I obviously had to put in the work to get good, but then when I was playing, it was like, okay, if I'm open, shoot. If I miss, shoot again. If they cut me off and I'm going straight, just change directions. That's simple.
Wow. So keep going and then pivot if it doesn't work.
Exactly. And that's what sort of basketball was for me in general. Like, I went to 3 different colleges in 4 years. It's a lot, so I was always getting cut off in basketball. It was always, I would get there and then something wouldn't work. And then this coaching change would happen, or then I'd get hurt, or boom, 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 boom. That's what it always felt like. And then when I wrote that first poem, that's when first time I was like, wow, this is completely in my control.
Yeah.
So I wrote my first song. It was a remix to Drake's One Dance. I think it was September 1st, 2016 was the first song I released on YouTube. That was the first song I ever made. And it was like basically
2016.
Yeah, I think it was pretty much a glorified motivational song on a remix on a Drake beat.
And how did it do? Did it do as you had hoped or expected?
At that time, I wasn't mad. I didn't think I was gonna have this viral song the first time I dropped it, but I had a bunch of viral moments via poetry on social media by that time because I had this poem called Time, and I did a couple of these challenges things, so I'd experienced virality in a little bit, but it was more just like I knew I had to get better and speed up my process. So in order to speed up, I've always said when you failing publicly causes you to get better quicker. So
somebody put a quote on that. Failing publicly causes you to get better quicker. Yeah, that's so true. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, so my goal was to always I want to do this, but I want to show people the process as well. So when I drop this song, I want to let people know that, I'm about to send 1,000 emails out. I'm about to do everything I can to promote this one song. And you're going to be here from the start and the beginning of the journey and watch me get better. I'm going to drop it. That's why early on I was remixing Tupac beats, which is crazy for someone who just started rapping.
Yeah.
And but I wanted to fail publicly because, muscle builds when muscle breaks. So I was like, okay, if I could, let me just choose the hardest things. Okay, who's one of the best rappers of all time? Tupac. Bet I'm gonna rap on Tupac beats. Who else is there? Eminem. Great. So this is gonna force me to have to get better
Yeah.
at an accelerated speed.
That's so good. There is a lot of courage that you have to have in order to bite that big of a piece off to chew, right? But I do agree with you. Muscle builds when muscle breaks, and falling publicly does force you to get better quicker.
Right.
And so, what was the sense of urgency for you? Why did you want to get better quicker? What were your goals when you did this pivot from basketball to music?
Part of the motivation. So, for example, I have this poem called "Time," where basically, like, my thought has always been like time is subjective. So it's like if you ask someone who's maybe in prison how 1 minute feels, it may be different than someone who's not in prison if you ask them how 1 minute feels. And I also know, like,
Yeah,
when I put things in the microwave, if I watch the minute, it takes so long. But if I just walk away and come back, it's like, oh my God, that was so quick.
Yeah.
Okay, well, time is subjective. So I want to do what takes most people 10 years in 2. Well, I didn't want to put out 100 songs of my own and gain no traction. Okay, well, let me remix these other beats. I just felt like I was in a race against time. I didn't want it to take 10, 20 years for me to get what I felt I deserved for the skills or what it is I was doing. You know what I mean? As someone who had spent 10 years, playing basketball and trying to work out like Kobe Bryant, which is insane, to just like not necessarily achieve the things I necessarily wanted to. I was like, okay, this is going to be different. I'm going to figure out every single avenue, every single blog I can message, every single person I can email,
So really, this was your second chance at redemption.
I would say it was more what God called me to do. Like once I wrote that first poem, and I was like, okay, well, this is something that, because basketball, I didn't feel like I was helping anybody. It was like, okay, I'm playing and I'm playing Division I basketball. I'm scoring points. I'm doing this. We're winning, but it's not really changing the world, at least on my scale. So when I wrote that poem, I was like, okay, I can see someone listening to this and like having a change of mentality.
Yes. Okay, that's huge. So really, the sense of urgency was because you found calling and purpose in this more on an outward, an outpouring level than you did in basketball, which was more like self-serving and although really great, you just didn't feel that you were impacting others, maybe yourself, but not others.
Right. Yeah. It was like sort of the basketball thing. Like it's maybe some of it, selfishly started when I walked into that school in 7th grade and just realized that like, dang, I'm nobody. I started to, and it sort of links to be a man. It's like, damn, okay, male achievement is going to get me noticed and further. What can I do? What am I adept at? Okay, I'm pretty tall. I'm pretty athletic. Okay, well, let me just choose something and so for me, that was basketball. But when music and poetry came, it was like, God, that was like the first time I felt talented at something.
Wow.
I was naturally good at, and this is having a positive impact on people. It's my obligation to push this to the world.
Wow. So therein lies the sense of urgency. You feel obligated towards the call. Yeah. And therefore it's like it needs to be done yesterday. And I can tell just even in the tone of your voice, like you're a guy who, a dog with a bone. You get an idea and you go hard, you go fast, you go in, speed wins, and I'm going to do everything I can. And I love that. I totally resonate with that on a very cellular level myself. So tell me, speaking of that dog with a bone mentality in this, you did it all yourself. Right? I mean, you were doing the email marketing. Let's talk about the business of music behind the creation, because a lot, I'd say 95, maybe more % of artists, they only care or think about the front-facing stage forward or recording studio centric side of music, when really that's the tip of the very large iceberg underneath, which is the business of music. So how did you educate yourself in that? How did you navigate that and build this platform from the ground up?
So I've always used and thought of like the door-to-door mentality. When I was younger, I played for the provincial team and I needed to get money. I needed to make money to be able to go back and forth to Toronto because my mom couldn't drive me there. So I needed to make money for this Greyhound bus a bunch of times during that summer.
Wow.
So I was like, okay, how can I raise this money? So what I did is I went door to door and I just asked people for $1.
Wow.
And I said, okay, I made a little paper saying this is what I'm doing. I'm from your city, blah, blah, boom. And I'm playing. I got chosen to play on this team. And I'm just trying to raise funds to be able to go back and forth, blah, 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 blah. So when you ask someone for $1, we have loonies in Canada. Like, most people have that in their pocket.
Okay.
So all I told myself, I said, okay, because I heard this thing was like, if you're willing to ask 3,000 people, you can get anything you want in this world. But most people will like stop after three strikes and you're out. So I was like, if I can ask
Wow.
thousands of people for $1, I think I can pay for these bus tickets. So the average person is like, oh yeah, sure, I have $1. I'll help this little kid out. But then
Yeah.
most of them have more than $1. So they're
Yeah.
just like, oh here. So I started getting like 5, 2, 3, and before I know it, like I was making a lot more money than I even needed. Where I started to feel like bad. I'm like, okay, well, like, let me like calm down.
Wow.
So I stopped doing that after one summer, But so that door-to-door mentality is what I took into music promotion. So I
Yeah.
was like, okay, if I'm providing a service that people need, there's people that want my motivation, want my words, then all I have to do is get it to people. So how can I do that? Well, in the beginning, maybe if I just message thousands of people. So let me find who likes what I do, people who like poetry. I would
Yeah.
follow a bunch of them. Then I would like
Yeah.
3 or 4 of their pictures. I would make sure the first thing on my page was a poetry video. So
Smart.
now most people, they get these notifications. Who's this person liking all my photos? So everyone would check me out, and the first thing they see is, oh, you does poetry? Oh, well, I also follow Button Poetry, this person, this poet, that poet, boom, 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 boom. So then they just like my stuff. And then I messaged them after. I'm like, hey, I saw that you liked my poetry video. If it resonated with you in any type of way, do you mind maybe just sending it to 3 people? I would really appreciate it. And I did that for months, every
Wow.
single day until I got to 10K followers on Instagram,
Wow.
which back then was sort of big.
Yeah.
So then once I got to 10K, I was like, okay, now I think I can leverage this following, go back home to Ottawa because it was 10K was big back then. Let me use
Yeah.
it now to try to take some professional photos because I'll tell them I'll tag them, boom, boom, boom. So I got some professional photos, went back, and then I just started using my following to leverage like other things. Like, hey man, if you can maybe repost this, I'll repost that, boom, 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 until it started to grow. And I was also messaging a bunch of people, hey, can you check this out? Boom, boom, boom. Only share it if it resonates with you. I don't want you to do anything unless you feel it. And I believed in what I was
Yeah.
doing so much. I was like, there's no way someone who likes poetry could hear this and not feel
Right.
something.
What you were feeling.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's just how I started. I call it the door-to-door method. And I put a picture in my dorm room, and I said I put the number 1 million. I said, if I can individually talk to 1 million people about this service I'm providing, then there's no way it can't get big.
Oh my gosh.
And then eventually that's just like, exponential growth starts to happen. Now it's like, okay, well, I've talked to all these people. There's so many people I DM'd and all these different things where it's just spreading. Now my following's bigger and it just keeps.
This sounds like a full-time job. And I'm sure a lot of our viewers and listeners are like, yeah, well, that's crazy and great. But like I work, 10, 12 hours a day. You were also an overnight janitor during this time, right?
Right. Yeah, I was overnight janitor. I was still in college playing college basketball. But I would say like the overnight janitor thing was amazing because so during the year it was 4 hours. During the summer I'd work 8 hours.
Okay.
But so my job, I was cleaning the whole day Matthias Hall. That was actually where we
Wow.
played our games. So I would like clean up and everything. It was actually sort of a cool dynamic because I was like averaging the most points, and then I'm also the one like cleaning up the gym.
Cleaning. Wow. How humbling though. That I really believe that in that time for you is where servant leadership was built. I really do believe that God used that time for you to build this iron rod of servant leadership in your back. Because when you speak now, it exudes from your tone, like servant leadership and drive and this like dedication to just win no matter what. Like that's what you're going to do. You're now the rapper dog with the bone to me, like in the best way. Because you just go after it. And I really think that the dichotomy of you being the highest scoring player while you were playing and then being humbled immediately after to sweep the bleachers and clean up the trash of the people who were cheering for you is like a mind-blowing opportunity that I think you were gifted, really, as crazy as that sounds.
Right. And I think sometimes like I tell people so when I was doing that job, it was the same mentality as when I wrote that first poem. It's like I saw where it was going as well. So to me, and like people have always called me an aloof. Like Daniel's just in his own world. So like to me, I didn't feel any of that because I'm just in my own world and I'm like working here. But I'm like, yo, in 5-10 years, this is gonna be a great story. So who cares?
Oh, it's such an amazing story. And I want it to be an encouragement and an inspiration for anybody listening. Like Daniel, you were cleaning bleachers and you were also sewing into your future in such an intentional and beautiful way. And I find that whenever you say yes and just walk through a door that's opened, God breathes on that in ways that we cannot fathom or imagine in that time. But I love that you even spoke life into yourself in those moments. And you were like, yeah, but you know what? Like the hope of later, the hope of the
Right.
future, my certainty of the promise of the future kept you going, and not just kept you going, but kept you faithful and happy and productive in that time, not just surviving, but thriving in that season. And I
Right.
love that. I love that so much. Thank you so much for sharing that. That's just
No
amazing.
problem. Yeah, I think I tell people all the time, like a lot of my mentality comes from like my mother, just
Mm.
like the way it's insane, the way she speaks, like even to me till this day, you know what I mean? I remember just all the stuff she used to say to me as a child. But then also just finding the law of attraction at 11 years old. Sometimes I tell me like I just got a head start. Like I got a head start at magic. It's like, oh wow, as an
Yeah.
11-year-old, I can speak things into existence. Like what?
Yes.
That's
Yeah.
crazy. You know, so it's
Right.
like that's why I have speak life into existence tatted here. Yeah,
Mm.
it was like this superpower that I just found so early on. So
Yeah.
everything was just being spoken. I'd seen it happen in life so many times where I spoke things positive and negative. So I
Yes.
knew the power of it, you know. So like at that time when I was working the job, to me it was nothing. You know, I was just like, oh, well,
Mm.
this is later in life. This is going to be a great story to tell.
And it is. And I really
Right.
do believe that as people are listening to this, they're being so encouraged and blessed right now. Like there are people listening to this who are in that same type of situation. They're like, wow, okay. Like, yes, yes to
Right.
where I am and yes to where I will be. That's so
Right.
amazing. So, Dax, fast forward from the janitorial slash messaging a million people and leveraging your 10,000 on Instagram, which is amazing. I love that you use the word leverage because that's very smart. Shows the business acumen behind it all. Tell me, when was the moment where you could actually like support yourself with all of that hard work and bear the fruits of your labor to not having to work in anything else but music?
So luckily I was, you know, my college was paid for because I was on basketball scholarship.
Sure.
So I didn't have to worry about that. And then, so like, that's why I say for me at the time, making $7.25 an hour at my job was a lot for me because I was like, I have no other responsibilities. I'm just saving this money, you know? So then now I was, you know, doing the YouTube stuff. So I was making a little bit of money, but my whole goal was just like, okay, before I graduate, I want to have, because at that time I was going out to California after graduation. And I
Okay.
wanted to just like have like 3 or 4 months of rent, like saved up, you know?
Sure.
So I had a couple viral videos on YouTube as well. I had the
Mm.
Hillary Clinton blow up. I had the Catch Me Outside that I got the revenue
Oh
off
my
of for like
gosh.
a couple weeks
Yes.
before it got claimed. So I
I,
was like saving money, and I don't spend money on anything else. But like you know, back then I mean, still to this day I still eat ramen noodles. But
that's good for
I'm not a
you.
material guy. I don't buy
Yeah.
anything. So to me, it was just like I was looking at it as, oh, this is just like free money that I'm just keeping and just putting it back into my thing.
Wow. It's insane that, you know, people watching you on YouTube at that time going viral had no idea that you were also working as a janitor. And I think that's
Oh,
so
they
true,
knew.
actually. Oh, did they know?
So my thing, like, so my whole thing was I always wanted to be transparent with the process because I feel like if I can bring people on this journey with me,
Yeah.
there'll be a lot more like they can then garner the motivation from it themselves, but they're also watching the change.
Oh, I
So
love
a big
that.
thing in the beginning for me was like join this journey with me. So
Yeah.
my first poem was actually about shunning society and not allowing people who do nothing for you to take everything from you. Because sometimes we get so caught up in what other people are thinking that we don't even chase our dreams. So for me, I was just like, you know what? Let me just put it out there. I'm an overnight janitor. I'm finishing college basketball. I'm at D2. The NBA is not really within the thing. I'm starting writing this poetry. It's super positive. And come on this journey with me because this is where I'm going. You can come. If you don't, you're getting left behind. But I'm going this way.
Yes. I love it.
You know,
How can you
so
say no to that?
right, and you know, and something I get it. Like I sounded crazy, but for me, at least I was okay. Well, at least what I'm saying is positive. So
Yes.
like this is like
Yeah.
positive poetry, and in the beginning, actually, I think people liked the fact that I wasn't just another quote unquote black rapper.
Right.
You know, it was like, oh, this
Right.
guy's like different. He's doing like poetry. Okay,
Yes.
you know,
Not
like, I
saying the
almost
same
didn't start
things.
writing poetry because I was like, oh, this is sort of like for sissies type stuff, you know. And I'm a basketball player and all this stuff like that. So it took me a while to
Right.
just be like, I'm doing this,
Wow.
you know.
Yeah.
So,
It definitely breaks the mold of expectation for sure that
Right.
that you would otherwise be stereotyped into, which I think is really the crux of the whole reason why you write, actually, to bring that difference lyrically. And I really love that. And so that's why for me, when I discovered you through I Can't Breathe, it was at a very, I mean, we're in a polarizing time anyway, but it was in a particularly polarizing time. And I actually wrote a song called Be the Change inspired by your song
Wow.
that I have not released yet, but I will be soon, and I'm gonna send it to you beforehand so you can listen to it. But I was so inspired by the words that you spoke into I Can't Breathe, because at that time it was like you were either for or against. And if you were for or you were against, you were still hated and evil by the other side. And it was
Right.
just so outside of the heart that I have for humanity, and I know outside of the heart that Christ has for humanity. And so when I heard the things that you said for both sides, I was like, this is just such a perfectly beautiful representation of everything I wish that I could have said that I've been feeling. And you just literally like personified it for me in that song. And so that's when I started to follow you. I'm like, this guy's different. He speaks the truth, but he speaks it artfully. Like it's not a Mary had a little lamb, Jesus loves me, this I know. This is like seriously artful, and it's seriously meaningful and truthful. And so as I continued to follow your journey, you were one of those people where if I wanted to really, if I wanted to kind of in an artistic way hear about an issue, I would look up to see what you had to say about it and if you had written something about it, because the way you said it was just so poignant and so perfect, and it always seemed to be what I wanted to say, but I'm not a rapper. I didn't have the words to say it. And in songs, you write a melody, you have a lot less room to talk,
Right.
sometimes a verse is like 10 words and that's it,
Right.
so I was like, he has an unfair advantage, but I really, really like what he's saying. So as your career continued to flourish and all of that grit and drive and work ethic that you're just exuding starts to pay off. I mean, you've done some pretty cool collabs. I'm a fan of Tom McDonald. I saw that you collabed with him, another controversial truth teller, right? Also Darius Rucker. Like, how was that like to work with these guys?
Oh, absolutely amazing. So me and Tom actually have 3 songs together. The first one was Blame the Rappers, then the second one was Mind Propaganda, and the one we just dropped with Adam Calhoun called Black and White. But yeah, I mean, Tom is amazing. So whenever we do get on the phone, it's like for hours. The last video was actually my first time meeting him. The 2 videos before, we didn't film in the same place. The very last one we did was my first time meeting him. But yeah,
that happens a lot.
Tom's amazing, man.
Yeah, he's a revolutionary, I think, and I just love. I love his creativity. He's got great work ethic as well. I mean, the amount of music that guy turns out and the videos with Nova are just like, they're a machine in and of themselves. He's someone else that I just feel like is in that kind of circle, Right. And now tell us, what was the song that you did with Darius?
So Darius Rucker was on the To Be a Man remix.
Yeah. And how was that working with Darius?
Amazing. I mean, Darius is a legend. So I was like, when I heard that he had said yes, I was like, oh wow. I was like, this is amazing. Just like, as someone who like knows, like country music, and then him being black as well, and all these different other things. I was just like, oh wow.
Yes.
Like he really must like the song.
Absolutely. And you mentioned that he said yes. So you reached out to him, and by this time you have a team helping you and working for you, right? So you're not necessarily hoofing it on your own anymore.
Right. Yeah, I've now had this pretty much the same manager since the beginning. Her name's Brittany. So like her, then with either the distribution or the small label we're working with, they knew people, reached out to his team, and then they sent the song to them, and then they liked it, and then boom, connected, got it all set up, shot the video. We actually shot the video in Nashville while I was on tour, so that was really fun.
And that's perfect segue. So talk to me about your very first tour and when that was and how it was for you.
My very first tour was crazy. My actually first tour was with Tech Nine, the legend. I did 55 shows with Tech Nine that was my first time performing. Like it was my first tour. And it was crazy. Right before I went on that tour, I actually there was like this thing that they used to have called showcase tours. And I went to this tryout, and I remember they didn't pick me. I was like, what the hell? Like, how did I not win? And then anyways, a couple weeks later, I ended up getting on the Tech Nine tour, and I was like, wow, I'm happy I didn't win that competition. So I went on that tour, and it was basically a crash course. It was 55 shows in like not that long of a period. It was crazy. Every night was crazy. It was wild. I learned a lot on that tour.
Yeah, I bet. And it does something to your stamina too when you have that many shows to do. Right. And those people that are there the next night, they weren't there the night before, so they don't know that show was great. So you have to do it just as good, if not better, the next night. It's not like you get any credit or cookies for the one right before. Right. So how was that with your stamina, and how did your voice fare?
For me, I was pretty good. I tell people all the time, I do the same thing every day. Like You know, if you ask people on that tour, they'll say that probably the craziest thing about me is like the push-up routine I would do before every show. You know, I probably would bang out like 500 to 1,000 push-ups before every show. And then when I'm on stage, I just like, my goal was to just sweat. So I'm just like running back and forth. It's just me on stage. There's no one there. And I don't even care if I miss a word. I'm just going hard, you know, just doing my thing. So that's just my mentality for shows. So my stamina as an athlete was good. You know, to me, shows are pretty easy compared to like what I used to do. You know?
So really your stamina as an athlete was unintentionally training you for live shows as an artist.
Right, like
unbelievable.
I would literally like be doing laps on stage, have push-up competitions.
Wow.
Just literally just trying to sweat. Like I want to sweat up here. Like
right.
But now it's funny because
so
like I sing a lot more, so it's like it gets to portions of my shows where I'm like not jumping around. It's like now that I'm singing more, it's
right,
sort of like getting different. But
yeah. That when you're holding notes and sustaining melodies is a lot different than rapping. You can get away with a lot less, for sure. And have you ever been trained vocally?
No. So the story is this. This is actually what happened. So when I was at the University of Montana, mind you, growing up though, I was in the choir in the church. My mom made me go to church every single Sunday. I joined the choir because I didn't want my mom to be up there alone with the people. And then I joined altar serving because I didn't want my sister to be alone with the deacon and pastor backstage. It was funny because later on in life, my mom actually called me and said that deacon had gotten taken away for touching kids. So that's why that thing in Dear God is actually like a real story. But it never happened to me or my sister. But you know, like how they like will leave a church over here and come here and do the same stuff and boom, boom, boom. So I was like, wow, it's crazy that as like I was the youngest person to altar serve at that time. It's crazy how I felt that way and wanted to join because of that and wouldn't let them say no. They're like, no, he's too young. I was like, no. And I just wanted to, because I was a big kid. You know, I didn't like this guy and I was just like, but instinctively you felt like you had to protect her. Wow, that's amazing. Yeah. So I was doing like singing stuff like that, I guess. But when I was at the University of Montana, I used to sleep in every single class. I was never awake during any of college because I was working out so much. Everyone knew that. So I changed my major to communications from economics. And I was looking for electives. And I'm like, okay, what class could I just like get that I could probably just sleep in or skip?
What's a good nap class?
Exactly. So I chose the singing class randomly. I had never made music at this time, nothing. I chose a singing class, right? So I get to this singing class and the teacher, I don't even know her name anymore, looked me in the eye and goes, I've heard about you. If you skip my class or fall asleep, I'm failing you. Boom.
Ouch.
So I had to go every day and do the drills. So I think that was like a precursor to me eventually making music. So I've never taken a singing class, but I did for one whole semester.
Oh my God.
In a singing class at the University of Montana.
Wow. And you did not fall asleep, I bet.
I did not. But I messed up. So I had to sing Somewhere Over the Rainbow for my final.
That's a hard song.
Yeah, it was. And mind you, this time I was like nervous. You know,
yeah.
I still get nervous when I sing on stage. But
sure.
I messed up and I had practiced so hard the night before, I was drinking like crazy.
Oh.
So when I got to class that day and I sang it, she was so disappointed in me.
Oh. Your voice was all dried out.
Oh man, yeah. Because all my little practices sounded good and stuff. And she was like, you're really making progress. I'm like, yeah, I'm taking it seriously. Like, this is cool. This is fun. And then I came in that day and just...
No, I hate that for you. Yeah. Well, you're redeeming it now, and I'm sure she's very proud of you wherever she is. What's one thing that you wish people knew about you that they may not?
I'm thinking just like what's coming to my head initially. I'm left-handed.
Same.
Oh, wow. Makes a lot of sense.
Right. Yeah.
I was born on a rock in St. John's, Newfoundland.
A rock? Like literally a rock?
It's pretty much a rock. You can't drive there. It's like a very small place.
Oh, okay.
A lot of people wonder like, oh, where did he get this sort of like country tone when he's singing and stuff like that? And then most people don't know that I've lived in Montana, Wyoming, Kansas, and then also growing up I was in Mississippi a lot because my dad worked there. So like the voices like I have in me are like a melange of just everything I've seen and been through and experienced. Makes sense.
So Dax, if you could change one thing, and just one thing really, I know there's probably many things, but if you could just change one thing about the music industry, what would it be?
If I could change one thing about the music industry, what would it be? You know what's really bad is the way not necessarily the amount they pay artists, but the way a lot of like these labels set up their payment methods. You know, for example, like you could be with a certain label and they may only pay you quarterly. You know, they may only pay you twice a year. And I think it's insane to expect somebody to plan out their whole life and expenses when they only get paid 4 times or twice a year. You know, I set up my stuff to where it's like, for the most part, the things I'm with, it's like monthly. But a lot of people are in situations where they're getting paid like twice a year or 4 times a year. I'm like, how do you live?
Yeah.
Only knowing you're
Yeah.
getting 4 checks.
Right.
Like, I don't think that's fair. And I don't think anyone in those offices gets paid quarterly. They get paid
No, they
monthly.
definitely don't.
Like, how do you take,
Probably bi-weekly.
right. So
Yeah.
I think there's that one thing. I also think rates at which people recoup and the interest rates, it's like the worst loan you can ever take. You might as well go to the bank and take out a loan, which I've done twice.
Really? That's
Yeah.
so interesting.
I've taken-
For your music, you've taken out 2 loans.
Yeah, 2 loans from the bank.
Instead of a label.
Yeah, 2 times. But sometimes like I've worked with like little distribution labels and little labels like that, and I've done those, and I've also taken out loans because the like if I were to work with a label, I don't take money like that. You know, I would
Yes,
never
right.
take $1 million from a label or 2 million. If anything, I'd be like, okay, well, you have to give me something. Give me like 100K maybe, because the return rate on which you pay, you have to pay back 5 times more. If it's 80-20, you're only recouping on your 20%.
Yeah.
So 100K, you're paying back 5. So you're better off taking no money and just being like, okay,
Yeah.
I'm going to go to the bank
Right.
and take money out, which I just like to do. And then also, if you take it out from the bank, you don't got to give percentages to everybody.
It's so true, Dax. I love you.
It's like if I take it out from the bank, okay, then I don't got to give a percentage to the manager, the lawyer, the this, the that, the that. No, I just went and took my own loan out, and this is my money.
That's right. That's right. Yeah, it's so true. And where did you learn this? Like you've got this business acumen about you, Dax, that seems to be innate, right? But for those who are like consuming this content right now, I go back to artists get taken advantage of because of sheer ignorance. They only educate themselves on what they love, which is the music side of it. But you are so entrenched. Like the way that your mind works and the things that you say are so deep into the business side of it. Did you educate yourself on this? Is this just something that's innate for you? Like where?
So there's probably a couple different things. When I was in high school, about 9th, 10th grade year, I realized that like most of the classes were a complete and utter waste of time. Like literally, I was like, why am I sitting here learning about the mitochondria and this cell and that cell? Why am I sitting here? Why am I taking math beyond just addition, subtraction, division, and multiplication? Why am I taking it to this insane level? I was also like a pretty like smart kid where I could still pass tests, you know what I mean? So going into my 11th or 12th grade year, I dropped out of everything. And I was like, okay, what I'm going to do, I know I'm smart enough to go past the ACT or the SAT. So I'm getting rid of all these classes. I'm going to only take what I like. So my 12th grade year at St. Pete's, I took like a business class. I just took interesting, and everyone's like, what are you doing? How are you going to go to college? I was like, I'll just take the ACT and pass it and I'll be good. You know, screw all these credits. So I took like a business class, a marketing class, and some other stuff, like stuff that I felt I could apply.
Benefit from.
You know, like they took all trades out of schools where it's like you're going there and you're learning nothing. Not to mention American school system where, you know, I was at a private Catholic school and the tuition was like 50 something a year. And I'm like, are kids actually paying this to learn nothing?
Yeah, I know. It's horrible. And I so agree with you on that. That's so true. I felt the same way growing up. I literally, I went to great schools, even performing arts conservatories, and I still felt like the core curriculum was so beneath what I knew I was going to use, and it just had nothing to do with it at all, that I skipped my college classes even to go into a recording studio and teach myself how to demo vocals. And to this day, that serves me better than the music history class I would have taken. I read that book, I passed the test, but I didn't go to the classes. And so I completely love that mentality of, I know I have a good compass of where I'm going and what I need to get there. This isn't serving me, so let me get it out of the way. I'm not going to shirk it. Like, you pass the test, right? But like, I am going to take my time and I'm going to use it wisely instead of just allowing myself to be herded like a sheep and my time to be wasted until I grow up and then get a job and become part of that matrix system. Exactly. You really are a Tide bucker, aren't you? I love that.
Yeah, you take that and you couple it with like a couple, you know, books here and there. I wasn't big on books, but I read a couple this one summer I had in seclusion at my dad's house. So I just learned that like, okay, well, you know, like even just taking a loan out from the bank, it's like for me till this, like I tell people every year, my goal is to literally go broke shooting music videos. My goal, and people used to laugh at me, but then I was like, no, that's actually how you make money. You don't make money by just putting it in the bank and just waiting on it to grow. You make money by putting it back into what you're doing. So now your taxes are lower, and also it's keeps reoccurring because you're spending it on your business, and that's making you money as well. So to this day, like 92% of my income gets spent back on what I do. So like these are things I learned in those classes. And then marketing, it was just, okay, well, anything you get, you got to scale the business, scale it.
Yes.
add more people.
And you're also living way below your means, which is, I think, something, and I do the same. I'm not a materialistic person. I might look expensive, but I'm not. And I think that a lot of people out there, because of keeping up with the Joneses and Instagram and envy and all that stuff, they just have to have the new Louis Vuitton. They have to have the new car, and it keeps them enslaved to where they are, and they'll never be able to scale or reinvest. And maybe that's okay for them, but I love how you do live below your means. You do give yourself that margin to then reinvest and leverage your gains into even further gains and future gains. And as a business, you want to look like you're making nothing, because then you owe nothing to the IRS. And
exactly.
That's a whole other conversation. But I love that. What would you say to an artist who's like, can I even monetize my music videos though? What if I go broke making them and then I stay broke? Like how do you make money off of that?
I tell one thing I've been saying from the beginning to like stuff I always say, do more than you're paid for, and eventually you'll be paid for more than you do. A lot of people, when I was doing all these remixes, I wasn't getting paid off them. They were being claimed by whatever song it was.
Yeah, because it's a cover song, essentially.
Exactly. So I was like, to me, it wasn't about the money. It was about growing, getting better, and people seeing what I was trying to do. So what I would tell people is, like you said, specifically live below your means, and then don't necessarily worry too much about monetizing. It's like, and then also, listen, there's also reality too. Like this business is very tough.
Very.
And it's like, I went into it I was like, okay, you just got to be realistic sometimes. Everything isn't for everybody.
Yes.
But when I say that, it's like, okay, well, I was still working a job. So, you see in this day and age, sometimes because everyone, these kids, you go to a kid, I want to be a YouTuber. I want to be this, that. And it's like, I still worked.
Right.
While I was
a lot.
Doing it,
Yeah.
So it's like, I think a lot of people in this age, they don't want to get a job.
I know. Nobody wants to work really hard. They just want to sit on a computer and be paid for their opinion.
And there's nothing. I think having a job is it was great because at least you get to be social.
Yeah.
Most people find their significant others at work.
That's true.
So there's benefits to just working and being social and being part of a community.
Yes.
So I would just tell people I guess quote unquote humble yourself and work.
Work. Yeah. Get to it.
Yeah.
Get your butt up and start doing something. I love it. Okay. So Dax, tell me about where you are this year, what's going on with your music, and also where you see yourself in the next 5 years, because I know you got a plan.
I write down goals most definitely in terms of a plan. It's crazy. Now that I'm where I'm at, there's so much in the music industry that's not in my control.
Yeah.
Radio's not in my control. Award shows are not in my control. Grammys, this, that. None of this I control. Maybe when I first started, I was I want to win a Grammy. I want to do this. I want to do that. But I'm like, damn, I really can't control this. I can make I could make a song encapsulating all of manhood that every single person relates to, and it still may not win anything. That's just life.
Yes.
So
correct.
I don't have, my only goals for the future are to continue to impact more people. However that looks like, I think it will continue to grow like it's growing. In terms of this year, I'm just trying to I just continue making music. I make so many songs. I have so many songs that I just want to get out, and I just want to make sure that they are perfect. Some songs take me a year to write. There's so many, I want to say each word perfectly. So my goal in music is that just whatever I say, people go damn, I was thinking that. Wow.
You do that. You are a wordsmith, and you do that. It's exactly my sentiment towards you.
Sometimes that's one thing I wish people knew more about me. Back to that question, is that how long it takes me to write some of these songs. And sometimes it's I'm thinking about one line and it's been months. I'm so far ahead to where I'm not stressed because I already know the next song coming out. But the To Be a Man, it's I write the first couple bars, I get into it, and then I don't have another line for 3 months.
Wow.
Because I want the whole thing to go in a circle like this and make sense from start to finish.
Wow. That is really interesting. So it takes you 3 months then for a next line sometimes.
Sometimes, yeah.
And
I'm just
patient.
listening to it on repeat. And no line. There's a song I got called now that's going to be on Modern Day Heartbreak called Place of Peace. I've had it for a year, and it's there's one line at the end of the first verse that I had nothing to it. I didn't know, and all I do is I sit there and I say, God, just bring it to me eventually. Eventually it came. Now I literally have one line left on the song, but when people hear it, they're gonna see for example, the chorus goes, I want you to be my place of peace, somewhere I can come to when the world tries so hard to break me. So I say that, right? I want you to be my place of peace, somewhere I can come to when the world tries to break me. So then I started thinking, okay, well, this is a man saying this to the woman, but what's going to happen though? Now a lot of women are going to go, well, we want that too. So my next line, I go, and I'll be yours too. So that completely just like, boom, that closes that one part. And then I keep going. And I'm trying to, like, I'm thinking about how people are going to hear it, this, that, closing off the questions that they might have, all the this, that, you know what I mean?
Wow. Wow. So you're even thinking about how it's consumed as you're writing it.
Right. I think about first person, second person. If I want it to be an affirmation where it's like I'm using, you know, personal pronouns. When people are saying it, they're speaking it as an affirmation as well.
To themselves. Yeah.
You know, so he can look at his wife, or she can look at her husband and say, I want you to be my place of peace, somewhere I can run to when the world tries so hard to break me, and I'll be yours too. I'll try to stay strong when it shakes me. Just help me through. I want you to be my place of peace, and I'll be yours too. Like, you can just, you know?
So good.
Yeah.
So good. And so your EP is coming out this year then, yeah?
Yeah, Modern Day Heartbreak's coming out this year.
Okay, that's exciting. So we're going to be looking for that. Everybody check out DAX and Modern Day Heartbreak when it comes out. When it does come out, we'll put a link in the description box below. And DAX, I have a surprise for you that I do to everybody on Truth with Tara. We're going to do a lightning round of questions. You're going to have 5 seconds or less to answer.
Oh, wow.
The timer is going to be on the screen, so there will be no cheating. You will get buzzed off if you take too long to think about it. Okay? All right. Are you ready? Dax, what's a genre you're afraid to sing in?
Screamo or rock.
Good one. Name the first venue you ever performed live in.
No idea.
Okay. A person you'd most want to do a duet with, dead or alive?
Tupac.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Makes sense. Would you rather be in a recording studio or performing live?
Performing live.
Nice. Song that you're embarrassed that you like. Well, I mean, you really lost that one. Oh, wow. Do you have any like Mary Had a Little Lamb or anything that comes to mind?
Maybe, what's that? Maybe the Hips Don't Lie, Shakira.
Okay. Makes sense. It's always a girly song for a guy. It's always that. And you know that they're like jamming to it in their car or something, you know? Okay, good. Earphones or headphones?
Headphones.
Yeah, okay. What additional music skill do you wish you have that you don't?
Playing instruments.
Any instrument?
I took a piano class as a child, hated it. I learned to play the guitar in high school, but lost it.
Okay, interesting. All right. What live performance has inspired you the most?
You know, it's crazy. This morning I watched Freddie Mercury at the Live Aid. I'm not sure what it was, but it was a Freddie Mercury performance. I'd seen it a couple times, and it was in the movie as well. And he was like, you know, he hadn't told anyone yet that it was HIV positive and all that. And then, so yeah, that one was pretty inspiring.
Incredible performer, incredible live performer.
Right.
Okay, if you had to choose a non-music related career, what would it be?
Basketball.
Not janitor.
Nah.
Okay, basketball makes sense. Okay, these are just kind of personal, like random ones. So, what's your favorite TV show?
My favorite TV show that I've ever seen was Money Heist.
Oh, so good.
So good.
Me too, actually. But is that a TV show though? I guess it is. It's a series. Yeah.
Other than that, there was also this one show called Quintuplets. I don't know if anyone remembers that. I forget what it was on.
No, I don't. Okay. Favorite season of the year?
Summer.
Oh. If you could have coffee with anyone, dead or alive, who would it be and what would you ask them?
Muhammad Ali, and what I would ask him, maybe what Malcolm X was like.
Okay. Fair. Favorite food?
Rice.
Rice. Okay. What's your guilty pleasure?
McDonald's fries.
Oof. That is quite a guilty pleasure. Is it better to ask for permission or beg for forgiveness?
Beg for forgiveness.
Yeah, it is. What are you really curious about?
Heaven.
Same. What book are you currently reading?
0. I started an audio book. It was Rolo to me. I forget the name though. It's like about man. It's about like manhood stuff.
Manhood. Okay. Cool. If you had to be a Disney character, which one would it be?
Aladdin.
Aladdin?
Yeah, I would love to have 3 wishes.
Totally. So good. Okay. If someone broke into your phone right now, okay, what would be your most highly Googled topic?
Highly Googled topic? My highly most Googled topic.
You lost.
I almost put up and look myself.
Why don't you do that?
Let me see. Most stuff I see here is NBA, mostly basketball.
Okay. Basketball stuff. You could have gotten that. You didn't have to lose. You could have just said that. Shoot. Okay. All right. Last one. You're dropped into a city. All right. Besides your phone, what's the one thing you have to have?
Ooh, clothes.
Clothes?
want to make sure I'm not naked. Can't be naked.
I mean, I'm pretty sure you wouldn't be naked. You're fair. I mean, yeah, we'll take it. Dax, you were a pleasure to interview today. I pray rich blessings over your future. I love your music. I love your drive. I love your passion. I love your deeper why behind what you're doing. And I want you guys to check out Dax everywhere he streams, everywhere he is on YouTube. Definitely want to follow him and support his career, because if not, he may call you up or go to your door and ask you for $1 someday. You never know, He's just that ambitious. So Dax, thank you so much for joining us today. Really happy to have you on, and God bless you in everything that you do.
Thank you. God bless you. I appreciate you having me.
You're so welcome.